Hi guys, it's Kelly and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring a new card kit from Picket Studios. This kit isn't going to be for everyone, but that's okay. It's called a Spooky Flight. It's kind of fun. It's got a lot of like spooky Halloween images. You get a ton of stuff. I'm just showing you the stuff. I'll go over it here in a minute after we get the project kind of started. But you get so much. And the kit is $69.99 with free shipping, and the items that you get amount to over $165. So this paste, I was like, let's try something different. This card's totally different for me, but it's good to break out of the box. So you get Yupo paper in the kit, and that's what I have. It's like a heavyweight Yupo paper. That's what I've trimmed down here. And now I am putting on a little bit of the paste. If you have never used I think it's the Paper Glaze from Picket, it dries much softer. But I put a lot on here because I wanted the texture. And it's going to take a minute to dry. So while that dries, I'm going to do all my stamping. If you're a person who is only interested in the paste portion, you're going to want to jump to the 9-minute mark. And then probably about, I don't know, 2 minutes from the end. Something like that. Because we are going to do some stamping and some coloring. So in this kit, you get 3 6x6 stamp sets and their coordinating dies, a 4x10 stencil, a sequin mix, the Paper Glaze glitz, 4 A2 Yupo card fronts, and 2 Ranger alcohol inks in lettuce and meadow. You also get 7 sheets of cardstock in black, gray, green, candied yams, I'm going to assume that's a orange, purple, a darker purple, and a pink. You get this little pipette and you get a spatula. So ton of stuff in this kit. It is limited time, and Picket doesn't do kits all the time, but this is, if you're into the Halloween spookies, this may be for you. I know it's not going to be for everybody, but the technique might be, so just hang out, even if the Halloween isn't your style. So here I picked 2 images. This is from the Trespassers Will Be Added to the Brew. And I ended up not using the pumpkin head scarecrow and just using kind of like the zombie hands holding the sign. But I did stamp them both. Because I double stamped them, and this is on Nina 80-pound solar white cardstock, because I double stamped them and they are really heavily lined images, I went ahead and heat set them before I did any of my coloring. The Picket hybrid ink is safe for alcohol markers, but you do have to give it time to dry. Typically I can just stamp it in color, but because I stamped it twice and these really are very heavily lined and I knew there was a lot of ink down, that is why I heat set it. So what I'm going to do first, if you watched my channel, this is not going to be news to you, is I'm going to be doing what I call color mapping. Since there's a lot going on in these images, I want to get in there with my lightest colors first and just figure out what everything is. So I started with the sign. I am showing you my color combinations now, so that way when I go back and do them, I don't have to show you them again. And then I decided to go with green for the hands, not because, I mean, you could do them really any color you wanted, but I was looking for a way to get some more pops of color in there. So that's why I chose green for the hands, because I knew I was going to have a different green on the bottom to match my alcohol inks. And then the headstones and the crosses were just going to be gray. So I didn't really have a whole lot of opportunity to put a lot of color in it. That's why I chose the green. So if you watch my channel, you know, like I love Copic coloring. That's kind of what I do. And this isn't necessarily my usual style, but as I have said on my channel before, I think it's really, really important to not pigeonhole yourself and to not be afraid to try new things. And so kits like this really helped me to kind of break out of my box, because I see the things that they've cultivated and put together, and I want to try to find a way to use the items in the kit together. And so, like, looking at the paste, I was like, oh, I wonder if I could color this with alcohol inks. I'm pretty sure alcohol inks color anything, but they might not dry properly, or it might change the texture of the paste, or there might be some other, science-y reason that it doesn't work out. And so it's good to just have a play and try. And before I tried it on my card, I did try it. I wasn't wasting, you guys know I'm a cheap chicken. Cheap. So I wasn't wasting my good Yupo paper. I just used some cheap photo paper to see if it would work. And I tried it both ways. I tried it with the paste wet and the paste dry. And it worked both ways. It did give the paste time a little bit longer drying time, but it didn't change the texture of it. It's still like soft and spongy like their normal paper glazes are. And it adds such a fun element to the card. I just think it's really fun. Even if you could use this for like landscapes of any kind, even if Halloween's not your thing. Like, you could use this for like mountains, or, oh, you know what we could use it for? Like sea foam. Ooh, we're gonna have to try that because it's still summer. I know that a lot of card companies are coming out with their fall stuff, but I'm hanging on to summer by my fingernails for as long as I possibly can. So you could do that. You could use it for like the centers of flowers. That would be really fun. Clouds, that would be great. That would be super fun, because then you would be able to feel the texture of the clouds. Mixed media is really not my go-to, but there are ways that you can incorporate it into your card style and still play with fun new things. You know what I'm saying? So the shading for this card, pretty straightforward. It's, your basic any point where 2 points meet, or where two objects lay on top of each other. That's usually my advice. With images like this, where they are so heavily lined, I literally just followed the lines that the illustrator put down, especially for like the ground and stuff. They've already done so much shading that I just followed their shading. And it makes it so easy, honestly. It makes it super, super easy to just know where to put your shading. And even like this, so when you're looking at the tombstones, the one in the back has lines across the entire top of it. Well, that tells me that it's meant to be darker. It's meant to be set further back than the rest of the images, which are maybe more forward. So I didn't even use my lightest color on that. I just left them the two darker colors. Or the arms, like the shading is then kind of on either side of it, like almost like it has a center highlight. The shading's on the outside edges of each arm, so I just followed that. They do make it very easy. Now, the heavily lined images might not be everybody's style, and I totally get that. But if you can get over your, okay, there's too much black, you could also do this as a no-line image and change up the coloring so that it wasn't so dark, but I like a black outline. So they give you the meadow and the lettuce in the set, but I also added some other alcohol inks for my own personal collection. I added 2 purples and a pink. You only see one of those here, but I am going to add another purple. But this paste is dry. Coloring the paste, I zoomed in so you could see how it like sits in the crevices of the paste and gives the coolest look. So cool. Now, I am working on, like I said, Yupo paper, so I am going to go ahead and do a full alcohol ink background. I've never worked with a pipette before with my alcohol inks, but now that I have, I don't know that I will ever not use it. It gave me so much more control over where I put down my alcohol, and I'm not using a mixative. I am just using straight isopropyl alcohol for my background today. And it just gave me so much more control over where I put the alcohol, and it was so much easier to get it where I wanted it. So if you have not tried a pipette with your alcohol inks, would recommend. So now I'm just going to start moving this around. There isn't really necessarily any rhyme or reason. I was just trying to fill up the background. So I'm blowing the green down with the little hand blower, and I'm blowing the pink and purple up with the little hand blower. It's fine that you can see right along that paste edge, they're kind of mixing. That's totally fine. I knew that part was going to be covered up by my stamped image. So I wasn't worried about that little bit of pink that was sitting there. Surprisingly, because on the color wheel, pink and yellow green are complementary colors. And so I really expected when they got together for them to make brown. Shockingly, they really did not. So I was surprised. So I got a little bit more alcohol in my pipette and then put that around the edges to really start spreading that color out so that I would have a full background. Alcohol inks they're just fun, and it's hard to only make one background, quite honestly, because they go really, really fast. And they're super fun to make and see what you can do. Another thing that I tried with this, which I have never done before, this is me adding that darker purple. It's more of like a muted purple, just to make the sky a little bit more like, gloomy, a little more Halloweenish, if you will. But I also, because I had the pipette, I just left what alcohol was left in the barrel of the pipette, and I kind of like splattered it on, and it made like the cutest little drops in my background. Totally loved that, because you know how I love spatters in my card making. So that was fun, and something I've never had the opportunity to do before, because I never had a applicator that would allow it. So here you'll see look at how cute those little dots are. And I think if I probably wouldn't have had as much alcohol down as I did, they would probably have stayed more. They definitely stayed more on the bottom where I didn't have as much alcohol moving. But yeah, super fun. So, story, do we have story time today? I'm not really sure. I think story time today is just really about the card. It's about the card. The story is about the card. So I was talking to my girlfriend on the phone when I was making this card, and I showed her the card, and she was like, "No, it's really good, Kelly. I like it." And you know how I mean, it's hard. We're hard on ourselves as creative people. And I'm like, I don't know. It's not my usual style. I don't know if I love it, kind of thing. I am going to set that aside to dry while I do the stamping of my sentiments. So I chose the all trespassers will be added to the brew for the sign. And then I'm also stamping Happy Halloween. Both of them will be stamped in white pigment ink and then white heat embossed with detail embossing powder. So anyway, I was like, I don't really know, it's not really my style, and we're just, we're kind of mean to ourselves sometimes. And she was like, no, it's really good. I like it. So if you are a person who is on a design team, or you take photographs and you share your cards, sometimes a card that is beautiful in real life will photograph like garbage. And a card that you're like meh about in real life will photograph, and you'll be like, ooh, you a pretty girl. And that's what happened with this one. Like, in real life, I was like, the card's like, it's just okay. And then I took my pictures, and I was like, but look at you. Like, I mean, it was, what did she call it? A Vogue. She's like, just tell him it was like a Vogue photo shoot. And I was like, absolutely. Like, I got my fan on, my CoverGirl hair blowing in the wind. Like, the contrast that was picked up when I took the photos of the card was so good and made the card look so much better than I think it does in real life. Which just goes to show you that obviously not everything you see on social media is the same as it would look in real life. Because I do think the photos turned out better, honestly. I'm just being transparent. I believe in that. So here now I've cut everything out with their dies, and you can see I did a very small amount of ground. We're going to change that. So I am trimming this down. The sheet that you get in the kit comes out to be 6 by 4.5 inch sheets, which is too big for an A2 size card. So I trimmed it down originally to an A2 size card, and then I was like, no, I want to be able to have a background. So I am going to trim it down further, and then mat it on some black. But when I was playing around with it here, you can see I'm playing around with my sentiment. I realized I was covering up so much of that texture that I really, really wanted to keep. So I came up with a game plan, because you know I'm not starting over. So I'm going to pop up my stamped piece. This is the extra wide foam tape from Picket Fence. And so I did not put any on the bottom where it's going to like hover over the paste. I just put it on the top. And then I glued that down. Yes, I know the crosses hang over. Don't worry. When we put the card base on, it will hang over the black. And then I looked around for my sentiment a little bit and I was like, nope, I'm just going to have to. I was scared because now this is for real life, you know, like Bluey says, for real life. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just going to have to stop being scared and do it. So I mounted it onto my black card base. And honestly, if I had colored in the bottom with the rest of the green so you couldn't see any of the white, it probably would have blended in okay. But I wanted it to be cohesive and part of the card. So I'm going back in with the paste, y'all. It's a little scary because my card's complete, but I'm doing it. So I went back in with the paste and I put it on really pretty thick so that it was up over the stamped image and then on the bottom of the Yupo paper. And so I just kept putting it on with my little spatula until everything was covered and it was, you know, blending in with itself. With this said, had I known I was going to do this, I probably wouldn't even have had to do it on the background. You know what I mean? You probably could just skip that part and just do this part. But I didn't know because I make them up as I go. So here I'm getting down the paste, just kind of putting it where I want it. At one point I get it down a little bit too far. I just scraped it off. It came off great. Didn't lift up any of my color. I was really, really happy with working with the two together. This paste, now remember the first time we did it, it was dry. This one is wet. I've just done it. I'm scared. You can see my hands. Those are my scared hands. And so I'm just going to go in and I'm going to take the same two green colors and I'm just going to drop them right into the paste. I was conscientious about how much color I was putting down because I didn't want it to bleed into my stamped images. But honestly, I didn't have a problem with it. And this looks so stinking cool. Like now it looks like there's an actual ground that these arms are coming up out of because the paste sticks up and it's perfectly colored. Like, it's fantastic. So, even though, like I said, Halloween might not be for everybody, this technique, if you have their paper glazes, I can't speak for other paste because this is the first time I've ever tried it, but if you have Picket Fence paper glazes, would check this out. So here I've popped up my Happy Halloween on that same foam tape, and then you know I'm not even about to leave that background white on my die cuts because I can't. So I just picked some purples. I apologize for not showing them to you. It's a V09, a V06, and a V04. I just use those to just go ahead and color in my background. That portion was high enough above the paste that was drying that I didn't have to worry about it. Oh, I also used black for the parts of the crosses that are sticking outside of the actual alcohol ink background. So then after the coloring was done, it looks so much better, doesn't it? Doesn't it look so much better? I went in with a white gel pen and put some little highlights on the zombie nails as well as on the crosses and the headstones. I just let my pen skip where it wanted to. You know, I just applied. If it didn't have even pressure, I was fine with it. And then I added just a little bit of clear glitter to just the crosses. And then that is it. That's the whole card. So I hope you learned a little bit of something. Like I said, this kit, if you're into spooky Halloween, it's a great bang for your buck. But it is limited time. I'll link it below. But yeah, but otherwise, the technique, maybe just give that a try if you're interested. All right. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate your time. I will catch you on the next video. Bye.